Framing is a highly effective technique for creating engaging iPhone photos. But I'm not talking about this type of framing. I'm talking about using natural elements within a scene to divert your viewer's attention and keep it there. And it can also create a sense of depth. The first kind of frame I want to show you is a physical structure that you can place your subject within so that it occupies the outer edges of the frame, just like an actual picture frame, like the one I discarded a minute ago. And the goal here is to guide the attention inwards. So in situations like this, when I want my frame to occupy the outer edges of the image, I'm going to recommend not using the ultra-wide lens, because no matter how you compose, the background and other elements in the scene will be distracting. And even if I was to get closer to cut things out, the frame itself now even becomes distracting because it gets elongated by the ultra-wide lens. So let's switch to the 1x camera, the main camera, and straight away that mitigates a lot of those issues. And I'm going to capture that. Beautiful. For frames like this though, I recommend using a telephoto lens because it's going to compress the background, which brings it forward and makes it even less distracting. Now on this 15 Pro Max, I've got a 2x and a 5x telephoto. So I'm going to choose the 2x here, and I'm going to crouch ever so slightly and shoot up so I can't see as much of the ground. Nice. But there's another frame in these photos helping guide your attention and keep it on Katie, and it is colour. She's wearing a vibrant red dress and she's stood in front of a lush green background. Now red and green are complementary colours, meaning they're opposite each other on the colour wheel. And complementary colours contrast, and you can use this contrast to help guide your viewer's attention in your images. Another thing frames are brilliant for is creating a sense of depth. And one way to do that is to frame up. So the frame is in the foreground and you're shooting through it at your subject in the background. So in this situation here, I've got this very, very short passageway. I'm going to switch lenses so you can see it a bit better. So I've got this short passageway and you can see it's quite dark. Katie is quite light. So I've got that contrast in the tones and the colors from my previous example. But this composition doesn't work. I'm going to use the wide lens in a minute when I get a lot closer, but for here, I'm going to switch to my telephoto lens. So let me do that now. And I'm using a 15 Pro Max, and it's a 5x telephoto lens. So I need to get back even further. And I've got these railings in the foreground that I need to be mindful of. But I'm liking this. Very, very careful to frame Katie up nicely there. And I'm in the Reflex Pro camera app here if you don't recognize the camera app. I'm shooting in RAW, which is my preferred image format. And this is absolutely stunning. Katie's light dress is really contrasting against the dark frame. So I've moved forward underneath this passageway / archway situation now. And now I'm framing Katie with the archway again, but I've got the doors in the foreground, which is something that I couldn't do with the telephoto because the telephoto field of view is so narrow. The way it compresses the frame and warps the frame, we couldn't see the doors. But now, because the wide lens is, well, wider, I mean the 1x lens, then it spreads the frame out and we can see the doors either side, adding some really nice context to the scene. So here the frame isn't only a device for keeping attention on Katie, it's actually giving us a bigger picture, like I mentioned before. So Katie, could you take about 3 or 4 steps forward, please? Thank you. A couple more for me. Excellent. Now I'm going to take a few shots here. Nice. That's gorgeous. Another way to create a sense of depth with framing is to swap things around. So now Katie is in the foreground, in focus, the frame is in the background, out of focus. And I'm using portrait mode to achieve that effect. And in terms of lenses, again, let's see how each of the telephoto and the wide lenses compare. So I'm framing Katie here with the 1x lens, and it's a nice photo. She's still framed with the archway, but there's so much more happening around the frame. The focus is on her because of the depth of field, but it still doesn't have the effect of the frame. So if I choose the 2x telephoto lens, bring the background much closer with compression, and now we get a much narrower field of view. So the background, the trees in the sky and things are cut out, and the background appears to be closer. That's what compression is. And if I go back even further with the 5x telephoto, we can really take that to the next level. So I need to just move a little bit, and now picture is solely Katie and the frame, and it looks quite spectacular. Now let's think outside the box and get creative with an unconventional frame. Can you see the frame in this scene? It is right here. It is this circle cut into the design of this armrest here on this bench. And it's quite dirty, but you can't see how dirty it is because it's out of focus. And I have to get really close to it in order to frame Katie here. And when you get close to something with your phone, it naturally is going to go out of focus when you focus past it. So Katie is in focus in the background, which has thrown the foreground out of focus. And I'm going to add to that effect by tapping this F here, which is on 15 Pro Max and says portraits in photo mode. And now I get that depth preview, and you have to make sure that the focus is doing what it's supposed to, which in a scene like this, it's quite difficult. The iPhone might want to switch to macro mode. I have to watch that it doesn't do it. And the 1x is okay, but I think I'm going to take advantage of my 2x telephoto. Go back a little bit. Again, just have to refocus on Katie there. Make sure that the circle is framing her nice and evenly, and take the photo. Something else I like to do, particularly in towns and cities, is use multiple structures as frames. I highly recommend when you're walking around these places, well, anywhere really, just keep your head on a swivel, because you never know when you're just going to turn and something is about to be framed up. Just like here, for example, walking over this bridge, I look to my left, and here is Beetham Tower, beautifully framed between these two railway bridges. I can come into my 5x telephoto lens and take the shot. And at this time of day, the bridges are beautifully lit, the tower's lit. It's a really nice photo. Now, a picture of Beetham Tower by itself is of minimal interest, to be honest. Especially here, there's no other elements of interest in the frame. There's no beautiful sunset, for example. When you frame it with these bridges, it takes it to the next level, much more interesting. I did the same thing when photographing the Shard in London. Now, the Shard by itself is a very beautiful building and a very interesting building. But a photograph of it like this, it's not very engaging. But by framing it between these two buildings here, it tells more of a story of London, keeps your interest on the Shard, is a more engaging photo. Plus, I heard planes going around. I saw one out the corner of my eye, I timed it perfectly, and I got a frame within a frame. Some frame inception here. A really creative way and a really eye-catching way to frame someone is with shadows. So here I've got Katie standing in the middle of this shadow on the road here, and I'm in the iPhone's stock camera app, and I want to create a silhouette because I've got the parking machine behind her, I've got cars and things. I don't like it. The iPhone is struggling to expose here because there's so much light on her, yet the background is so dark. It's doing its best to balance it. So what I can do is I can tap on her and then drag down just like that to create a silhouette. And it's not for me the best workflow. I can achieve what I want, but my preferred way to shoot in this situation is with shooting in RAW. And to shoot in RAW, I need a different camera app. So I'm in the Reflex Pro camera app, and to learn all about different camera apps, we do have videos all about those and how to shoot in RAW. But here I'm using my focus reticle to keep Katie in focus, and I'm using the manual settings to create a silhouette. So I've got my ISO as low as it will go, and I'm gonna use the shutter speed. So if I brighten the shutter speed up here by slowing it down, you can see the image is too bright. So I'm gonna speed it up, go to 700th of a second here, And now that's going to silhouette Katie really nicely as she moves around. Nice. I'm waiting for her to catch the light. Keep your face in the light, Katie. Perfect. And can you walk through the shadow completely? So walk from that side, like across the road. Action. There we go, get some movement, nice. So when you're being creative with frames, what is not a frame from one angle can become a frame from a different angle. So walk around, experiment, choose different lenses and see what looks good. So here I found this pocket of light, and from here it's not a frame. So what I can do though is I can stick in my wide lens, put Katie right in the sun and make it a frame like this. I found a beautiful pocket of light in a really unassuming scenario here. Just underneath this balcony, it's casting the perfect shadow, but the wide lens wouldn't work in this case. Let me show you why. So I'm trying to frame Katie using that shadow in that pocket of light. As I get closer to her, even though I'm really close now, I can still see the background, which I don't want. So in order to mitigate that and solve this problem, I'm gonna come right back and switch to my telephoto lens. So now she's framed up with that shadow. There's a shadow on the wall behind her as well. And things are looking very, very good. Okay, so let's bring it all together for the end of the video here. And I want to show you how you can introduce different compositional elements to create a really maximally engaging image. So here I've got framing in the background, I've got the archway. It's out of focus because I'm using portrait mode. So Katie's in focus. The background and the foreground are both out of focus, which is great for engagement as well. I've got the leading line of this handrail. Katie's hand and arm are adding to it, and it leads up to her eye on the rule of thirds there. So I've got multiple compositional techniques coming together. And if you want to learn in depth about leading lines, the rule of thirds, composition as a whole, and how you can see composition in any place when you're out shooting, then there will be links to all of these videos going into all that stuff.